3. Okay. All right. So far it's one student, but that's okay. Hi, Jocelyn. All right. So we are getting ready for the HTCC conference. That's the Honors Transfer Council of California. And just to demystify it, it's not going to be until March 26th. The only sticky part about that is that they expect abstracts, and those are due in December. So I compile them and then I forward them to the council, and then they select who's going to present. So that said, I would need them by December 1st or so. That way, also your mentor, once you choose a mentor, you're going to go ahead and have them sign off. They'll send me the form that I sent out to everybody, and I can resend that. And then we're good to go. And I will forward your abstract, which is 250 words, and also a 25-word description of your project. Okay, so we're here to help you with that. Not that crazy, but we want to make sure that you're competitive about this, because there are many benefits to that. And we do have some wonderful people to speak about what's going on with the conference. But there is an opportunity to publish, and there's an opportunity to network, and it's very prestigious. This is only open to honors students. So we're really excited about this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and have Vice President Ruben Arenas kind of open up with some words, and followed by some of our other faculty. So Ruben, I'm going to hand it off to you for now.
Yeah, no problem. And again, so I want to say welcome to Jocelyn, our honors student, of course, and as well as to all of our students who will likely view this at a later time. But yeah, I'm Ruben Arenas, Vice President of Instruction here at East Los Angeles College. And it's my absolute pleasure to be here with you all today. You know, we have our distinguished faculty, as well as our students will join us later. Look, I got to start by recognizing the work of honors students. Each of our honors students has willingly accepted the challenge of additional projects, additional assignments, more in-depth coursework, really to deepen their educational experience, right? Jocelyn, when you signed up, I don't know if you knew exactly what you're signing up for, but I'm sure you know that deeper educational experience has been something that you have valued. And I commend you for that work and that commitment to your education and to your, really your love of learning. Now I'm here to really ask you to go that one step further and submit that proposal to our Honors Transfer Council of California conference. ELAC has had the distinction of sending a number of students to the HTCC conference in prior years, and I'm hoping that this year will be no different. And look, if you have never attended a conference before, I understand this is a little bit, it may be a little bit intimidating. It was intimidating for me. My first conference, I think, was when I was a sophomore in college, my second year of college. And yeah, it's a little bit scary. What's an abstract? How many words is 250? Really, do I need to do a poster? Do I need to do a talk? What do I wear? And all of that is a little bit intimidating. But I want to assure you that you have the support of a number of folks here, right? Our honors director, Dr. Ruth Blandone, our various honors faculty, Dean Mingwei Lamb, all of them will support you every step of the way. And although, again, it is a little bit intimidating, it is absolutely something you can do and something you should do. Right? If you've never attended a conference before, this is your opportunity to connect to like-minded students, like-minded faculty, as well as to showcase your academic excellence, right? You are excellent. You are an excellent student, and this is an opportunity to show that off, to gain some recognition, and, as Dr. Blandone mentioned, maybe walk away with an award or a publication, and to have that recognition. So again, you're going to have the full support of this whole team. You'll have, again, Dr. Blandone, your mentor, Dean Lamb. If you want to shoot me an email, I would be happy to talk to you about conference attendance. But as you prepare, we will support you. You won't be alone. And again, I'm hoping that we'll have a number of students also who will be able to support each other as well. But in the end, no matter what you choose to do, I just want to express how proud I am of you, right? Each of you, our students, represents ELAC in the best possible way. And I look forward to seeing your next steps as you transfer and as you make your way to a successful career. Uh, Lastly, though, I absolutely, and right now I know it's just Jocelyn, but that's okay. We'll get others eventually here. I have to recognize again the work, support, and dedication of our honors faculty here. Our honors director, Dr. Ruth Blandone, our previous director, Dr. Bermudez, who's on here with us, as well as Dean Lamb, who supports the program. A little bit of virtual applause, I think, is appropriate. This is a dream team. And, you couldn't have a better team of students to support you. So again, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to talk to any student who wants to talk about conference attendance. My conference attendance was always in mathematics, physics, and computer science, but it doesn't matter. It does translate. So again, you have a wealth of knowledge here for folks who will support you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those words, Ruben, and thank you for taking the time to come here. I think it means a lot to all of us and to our students to feel that we have the support of the administration as well. So thank you. All right, I'm going to pass this on to our former honors director, who we owe so much to, Dr. Nadine Bermudez, who is also professor of Chicano Studies and is currently teaching one of our honors courses and will do so as well in the spring. Okay, all yours, Nadine.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blandone. Welcome, students. I know many of you are going to view this, even though you're not here now, you will be viewing this. It's a very exciting conference, I have to tell you, and as Dr. Blandone explained, it's a very unique opportunity as honored students. All of us here on this panel have presented. We've all done research. And that's so exciting because it's that research experience that's going to carry you not only through your scholarship and your academia, but through your fields of study. Whatever your fields of study, you're going to be developing research, collecting data that's going to contribute to that body of work. And so my advice to you is to engage in research that you are excited about, that you are passionate about, because it doesn't feel like work, because you want to know, you want to contribute, right? And you're going to keep building on that research. This is just your first step. Maybe you've had other steps, but these are steps as community college. You're going to keep building on this research, and it will carry you far. And I have to say, as the former director of the honors program, when we survey students who are exiting the program, who have transferred and such, and I asked them what was most beneficial about the program, more often than not, the number one thing they say is the research experience they gained in the program, the research experience they gained. And ELAC is very in tune to that right now. We have various programs where we're trying to develop those research skills so that when you do transfer to your four-year campuses, you hit the ground running. And that's what our alumni are telling us, that they had that. Not only did they have the skills and the knowledge, but they also had a body of research, some research they had conducted already that they could build upon. So I get very excited when I hear about our students conducting research, and it's something I'm passionate about. As far as the conference itself, it is exciting because you're networking. It is virtual, but you still have that network opportunity. And what's exciting about that is you're with other students, you're with students from all across the state, with the meeting faculty, but you're with like-minded people. You're with people who in your fields share your passion for what you're doing. And that's exciting because you're generating new ideas, new perspectives, new ways of seeing and doing. And that's the beauty of not just research, but I think of knowledge, of education. So I do hope that you will participate in the conference. Again, as Dr. Blandone said, right now, focus on that 250-word abstract, and we're all here to help you develop that. You are very lucky because you have an English professor who is now the director of the program who can teach you how to write an abstract and how to do an abstract. So run with it, run with it. There's scholarships to be had, there's publishing opportunities, there's networking. It was probably one of the highlights when I was one of the highlights when I was director was attending the conference, and many of the people here did attend, and it's exciting, and it's something you will come to love because you'll be in your field of study, right? And you want to advance that field, whether it's medicine or science or whatever it is. All right. So with that, I'll hand it back to Dr. Van Doorn, and if I can be of help, you let me know. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Bermudez. And yeah,
I'm gonna head out. Okay. I'm sorry, all I have to leave a little early. All right. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Nadine.
You're welcome.
All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass this along to Dr. Alan Kosin, Professor of Economics, who's also served as a mentor previously. So I think some of our faculty who have already been approached to be mentors will be interested in your perspective, Alan. And also our students, when should they approach their instructors, professors about mentorship? What does that mean? What is your role as a mentor throughout the conference process? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Alan.
Hey, everybody. And this is a really exciting time to really provide information for both the faculty and the student presenter. So for the student presenters, I have 3 key recommendations. Number 1, to have fun. Have fun. Number 2, to ask questions. And number 3, to really provide an organized meeting schedule with your faculty mentor from now until the actual conference, and this will be March 2022. So from my experience this past year and a half, I did have my student Ho-Yan Yip, who by the way is also now at UCLA, so go Bruins. But we had a really good schedule to where we got to meet once a week. This is before COVID. So it really helped out to where we got to meet on a Friday, either at Cafe East or at Starbucks in the Atlantic Square. And that really just kind of helped out break the ice. So, we talked about my research, we talked about her potential research. What was neat was she had a very strong interest in pursuing my research and beyond. So that was really neat. So I was able to provide data that she was able to use for her conference back in 2020 of last year. For the faculty mentors, I have 3 recommendations for you. Have fun, be open, and also organize a scheduled meeting. So there is a common theme here that it looks like organizing a meeting is really essential. And when I say we, Ho-Yan Yip and myself, we started as early as fall of 2019. This was back, again, pre-COVID. So we began in the October month timeframe. And then we first met once every 2 weeks, but once our schedule really kind of got more free, we got to meet once a week. Email correspondence now in the time of COVID would also be a really good way to provide that one-on-one. Being open. So again, my job as a mentor was really to listen to see where she wants to go as far as her research goes, and being open to where you could also provide feedback, both constructive and positive feedback into the type of research that she wants to go into. Overall, the experience was fun. I was able to go to the conference, virtual, Zoom. I got to cheer her on, I got to see her. So this is something where we as faculty here at ELAC, I think this is why we teach, right? This is why we are here, to see that gratitude, to see students start off in our classrooms first day, not knowing what the major is, to see them bloom as a student who has a potential for graduate school. It's just amazing. So when she completed the presentation at the conference, we did go out to Starbucks. I got her a latte, so we kind of got to celebrate for that. And I am sad, however, that she's now gone. She's again at UCLA, but that's something that I would always remember, that mentorship. So hopefully that helps for the faculty and for the students.
That helps tremendously. Thank you so much, Dr. Kosen, because also that really is our reward, right? And why we teach, to really see our students just bloom and move forward, and do the same sometimes for other students in the future. So it's fantastic. That's its own reward. All right, thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to Professor Rihanna Gleason, who has also attended the conference in the past. Professor Gleason is also one of our honors faculty. He's taught honors frequently, and also is the director of our Deloro program. So just any words you'd like to share, impressions, Rihanna, I would really appreciate it. And I'm passing it off to you.
Sure, thank you. Can you hear me okay? It looked a little glitchy. I'm good? Okay. So yeah, I've had the opportunity to mentor students for the conference about, I think I've worked with like maybe 5 or 6 students over the last few years. And all of those were really fantastic experiences. Just so students, if you haven't done this before, most of us have not done it before, students, to get a picture of what it's kind of like, the first step is you identify what research or what paper, what essay you want to adopt to bring to the conference. And then you're going to identify who you want to work with as your mentor. And you would start to meet with them on a regular basis. As was mentioned, it's good to have that schedule and just get into that regular contact with them. And you have lots of time to prepare with them ahead of time. So I always emphasize that to the students. Don't feel like you're going to just show up there and you have to present without any preparation. That's what your mentor's for. Your mentor will make sure that you feel very well prepared. So just to give an example with my students that I've mentored in this process before, we usually meet several times. We continue to look at that essay that they're shaping into their presentation. I make suggestions, they make edits, we go back and forth. Sometimes we have to kind of cut it down because of the time constraints, right? So we're figuring out what is really like the core of what core research do you want to present out of whatever content you might have developed in your class. And then I usually schedule time so like, let's say the student, they were my student in the fall, I'm working with them, and now it's in the spring. I set up a date for them to come into my spring class and actually do the presentation in front of students. So it's a good practice. So that's something that they've really benefited from, because in my current students, maybe they've read similar texts because I try to place them with a class that's similar in theme. And so they can ask really good questions. And that way the student who's going to present at the conference is prepared for what you do. Have a Q&A period. So you want to already kind of anticipate what might people ask me, how would I address those questions? And they've really benefited from that. Yeah. And I think another thing I want to mention is just that it is a really, I think Alan, referenced that, like, you really get close with your professor, which is a really nice thing, because then, you need letters of recommendation, you need support sometimes when you're doing the transfer process, someone to look at your personal statement, someone to help you figure out what university fits best with you. And now you have someone that you have that kind of deeper relationship with that you can turn to. So all of the students I've mentored continue to be people I have contact with. As Alan said, I've seen all of those folks go off to UCs, really fantastic schools. They're doing beautifully. Some of them are now in grad school because it's been a few years. And so it does tend to be that these are the students who do really well academically. And I think that this is one of those reasons, because they've actually learned research in a really deep way, which is one of the best skills you need when you transfer. They have that confidence. They've started to, outreach with other folks and, become someone who embraces getting feedback on your research, which is all the kind of, approaches you're going to need when you get to the university level. So I think it's just like a really great opportunity. The conference is fun. I think it's fun to go to. So that's another, reason to go, because you're going to get to see a lot of different presentations. Your part might be, you might be a little nervous, but that's only like whatever, I don't know how long it is, I forget, maybe 10 minutes. And then the rest you get to like listen to other people's ideas, and it's actually, you get to mingle, you get to network, you get to hang out with ELAC folks. The whole ELAC team will be cheering you on. We tend to go to each other's panels, you know, so that you'll have friendly people in the audience. I love the conference so much every year that the last time before COVID, I actually brought my husband and son, and we did a whole weekend, and we stayed in Irvine and we just like build it into my schedule because I do it pretty much every year. I've done it so for the last few years. So I just, you know, it's that entertaining that you'll want to be there. So yeah, I think that's the main things I can suggest. I just think really, yeah, work on fostering that relationship with your mentor and with the other presenters. And in the years that I've gone, the presenters have gotten to know each other too, because there will be, usually there's kind of meetings, a few meetings or workshops ahead of time. So they get to know each other. They already know each other through honors, but it's nice to have that team of people, not just when you're at the conference, but again, when you're going to transfer, you also have folks you're going to know then. I know a lot of our honor students will see each other out at UCLA, and then that's that community you take with you. So this is just one more way to build your honors community, that support system, get to know different faculty and, you know, our honors director, Dr. Blandon, people that will support you.
All right. Thank you for that, Rihanna. Yay. That's fantastic. And so much in reference to how much support you really will get, and hopefully you will feel, because we will be there. I'll be there for sure. Just one quick note. I love that idea. I think Alan mentioned it in the chat as well, about Rihanna, like having your students present as they do. What I am planning to do is create maybe like a mock panel, a mock conference panel for either late February, early March, once we hear who's been accepted to the conference, and it'll serve as, you know, practice. That way you feel comfortable. It's good. It's just a matter of just feeling comfortable with it. And I think it's going to be great. All right, we can answer some questions that you may have toward the end, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to our wonderful librarian extraordinaire, Erica Montenegro. Yay! Who's going to go ahead and sort of speak a little bit about the abstract process and maybe what it means to write a 25-word proposal, which is not that long. It's very short.
It's hard. I tried doing it this morning. I was like, oh, shoot, no, time's running out. We're going to talk about it. It's hard.
All right. All good, Erica. Thank you. And welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do before I start is just for like accessibility reasons, I'm going to upload my slides as a PDF into the chat in case anybody wants to save and look at them later. Also, I'm having some work done. I hope you can't hear it, but if you hear a little saw noise, that's it. Okay. So I wanted to welcome the two students here, and Alexa was one of my students too in library science, and she probably has a few different ideas, but I'm hoping she also uses some of the, the ideas from my class. So the way I'm going to present is I do have a couple of slides for you, but I'm very happy to pause and address any questions about maybe the language or the vocabulary I'm using. Also, while I'm setting up, I wanted to share that I went to the conference maybe several years ago, maybe like 5 years ago. I went with another librarian, and I did get to like walk through the halls of posters and see the performances, which was very unique. And so what I thought was so great about it is like, I never got a chance as an undergrad to go to a conference where it was a lot of different subjects. I've always gone to very subject specific conferences. So like conferences in literature and English or library sciences, librarian conferences. So I think that's such a wonderful experience for students to engage in different kinds of scholarship, you know, to see what it looks like to present in math, what it looks like to present in history. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to see that. And it's unique because once you start specializing, you won't always see that. So I kind of just thought of today's little workshop as let's get abstract, but for me, it's kind of a joke because I was thinking, what could I offer the students who are coming today? And one of the things I know that was something that was kind of a strength for me when I was a student is I wasn't always like the best student or the brightest student or the most innovative student. But one thing that I always liked to do was to demystify a process. So while the abstract or the abstract proposal may sound scary and something new, I'm hoping that what I can do today is demystify the process, maybe pull apart some of the language and then look at some examples. And if it's the first time that you've thought about this, that's totally fine because we're going to go into that today. Okay. So I just called it Let's Get Abstract Writing Tips for the Burgeoning ELAC Scholar. Again, my name's Erica. If you want to stop me to talk, there's so little of us. I'm happy if you just want to unmute yourself and stop me at any point. So like I mentioned, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I want to leave a lot of room for students to talk to us directly. So we're going to talk a little bit about our potential presentation poster performance ideas. Now, I know there's only 2 students here. So if you're unsure, maybe you want to talk about maybe some ideas that you've done in some classes and you're still playing around with potentially presenting them. But most importantly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out important points from the conference page that I hope make the abstract proposal less scary. So I kind of want to interpret them more for new students who maybe haven't presented before, and then look at and dissect a couple of examples. So HTTC conference page has some examples, but they're kind of hidden. I at least felt like that when I was looking for them. They're kind of hidden in the toolbar, so I want to highlight those. And then if we have time, maybe we can talk a little bit more about that like 25-word proposal description, which I actually think is pretty difficult to kind of narrow everything down by your essence. Okay, so again, I know that there's only 2 students here. Okay, one of which is Alexa, a past student, but I would like to know maybe from the couple of students here, or maybe from past faculty, if you want to chime in here, we can talk a little bit about what a poster or oral presentation or performance is. But does anyone here have an idea yet of, are they thinking of a poster or an oral presentation or performance? And I'm pulling this language strictly from the website. And if you don't have an idea yet, I'm also happy to have a minute to break down what these mean: posters, oral presentation, performance. So does anyone want to, I think it's Alexa and I think it's Jocelyn. Do either of you have an idea yet of something that you're kind of thinking about? And if it's a poster, a presentation, or performance?
I still don't have a very clear idea, but just looking at this, I think I feel more comfortable with an oral presentation. It kind of, when I've presented in the past, which hasn't been much, but I've noticed that if I have a poster in front of me, I do not take my eyes away from it. So in an oral presentation, it's kind of more like just key points that, this is how I was taught in communication also. So it's like, just get your little key points and you already know in your head what you want to talk about. And one thing that I've noticed is that the more that I rehearse, the less it comes out like it. But then in the day of the presentation, I am not nervous because I know what I'm talking about. There's no way I'm gonna get lost in what I'm saying, as opposed to if I am looking at a poster and then, oh my gosh, I misread that word, and then I'm just all over the place already.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And the thing about the poster is it's a little bit confusing, and I have a link, maybe at the end I'll share a link to what a poster looks like and what that might look like at a virtual conference. So the poster does seem a little bit tricky, but from my experience, a lot of times what it is it almost reminds me of almost like a science fair, where you pretty much present a lot of the things that the abstract proposal asks you to present for an oral presentation, and you basically present it in a single poster form. And obviously, when you're doing it online, it looks pretty different. I went to a couple conferences virtually, and what it was basically a big PDF. Like somebody created a poster and put it on a slide or made a PDF, and it breaks down like thesis here, research methodology, sources or citations, maybe some infographics, and then they kind of just talk about it. You know, they present the poster, they talk about it. They may or may not read directly from the poster, but a lot of it is just like talking about what the people who are looking at your poster, what they're seeing behind you. So it is another option if you're still like, yeah, I want an oral presentation, but poster is still kind of interesting, but I don't know 100%. But I totally understand your point, Alexa, about like liking the possibility of presenting and just speaking. I don't know much about the performance ones. I saw a couple performance one that I remember vividly was a student did a performance of like a historical event, or imagined performance of a historical event, something like that. So Jocelyn, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but did you have an idea? I'm guessing because you're here, you may have an idea, but have you thought a little bit about this? Like, are you interested in maybe an oral presentation, a poster, or performance?
Yeah, it's okay to put me on the spot. So
I appreciate it.
So my research project is actually going to be an essay assignment.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the first platform, but for the sake of the presentation, I am not sure if I can turn in a written assignment like an essay structure, or if I would have to translate it onto a poster maybe.
Oh yeah, you bring up a lot of points, because presentations and posters are definitely very, very different and very unique from the essay writing process. So the oral presentation, while a lot of students I've seen do read, right? They read sometimes from something they prepare. It definitely is different, right? Reading, I think Nadine mentioned that they're only, I think they're like 10 to 15 minutes long, which goes by very, very fast, right? So when you think about reading an essay as well, it's not always geared towards reading aloud. So there's a different level of like engagement. But I think that's really where your mentor steps in, right? And thinking about how do you take this unique format of the essay and translate it into something that's engaging, something that you may present slides for, because also keep that in mind. Again, I've only been to one in person. So it was a student in front of a lectern, and they had their paper, but some of them had like slides. So they were presenting information, but also they had slides behind them. So it's a different beast in terms of like presenting an essay.
Right.
But
So,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
oh, it's okay. Just really quick. They're going to put them in, and Brianna, please jump in like almost like breakout rooms where they have their own little, I guess, by subject or discipline room, and then they'll present as a panel. That'll be really interesting.
Yeah, you know, I went to a conference recently like that for both posters and presentations, and I thought it was great because I actually got a chance to engage more with the presenters in the poster presentation, because it was a little bit more intimate than like walking down a hall or being in a big room with 30 people. So, you know, it's just thinking about how you would translate that essay to a whole other like format. Yeah. Brianna, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention really quick, just to add to what you were saying. And I I don't know because I didn't go last year when it was virtual, but when they're in person, when you do the oral presentation, you can have like slides, as you mentioned. And also just to mention, in case you're doing more of a like cultural studies type of research. So I had a student who was doing analysis of a film and music, were both related. So she was able to embed like a very short video clip into her presentation and like samples of music that she was analyzing. So you can, just so people can kind of imagine, if you have something that is multimedia, they have that possibility usually. And I'm assuming on Zoom, they could do the same, but you can kind of have like a PowerPoint with things embedded in it if you want, as you present.
And we'll leave space, Jocelyn and Alexa, to talk more about your projects, because I bet you'll just keep on thinking more about how you can flesh these ideas out as we continue discussing the abstract proposal. So, oops, let me go back. All right, so I also wanted to demystify this mashup of the words abstract proposal, because that was also something kind of new to me. I've always heard the term abstract, and I know what an abstract is. I know what a proposal is. So this was actually the first time that I saw this idea of an abstract proposal mashed up. So I wanted to break that down a little bit for students so they can get a better understanding of what it means, and just see that it's not as scary as it sounds together, right? So an abstract is a summary, and generally I think of it as like a summary of an article, but it can be a summary of an article or a presentation. It includes information about why the research study was done, what the methodology was, and something about the findings of the author or the authors. And the abstract should tell you what the research study is about, how the research was done, methodology, and you're going to hear that word a lot. So if you have any questions about the word methodology or any language I use, please make sure to let me know. And who the research sample was, or meaning if you are using statistics or you were looking at a sample of people, right? Who was this research sample of? And then what the authors or the author found and why this is important to the field. So generally that's what an abstract is. If you've ever read like scholarly journals, the abstract is usually maybe on the first page of the journal. And it basically summarizes, right, the main ideas. And in some disciplines, right, the main idea, the innovative thesis is generally the biggest point. But in some fields, the research or the methodology is more important than having maybe a big innovative idea. It's the research that was kind of the breakthrough moment in the abstract, okay? And then a proposal, right? A successful conference proposal will clearly and succinctly introduce, summarize, and make conclusions about your topic and findings. And I always tell students, there's never like one way to do a proposal. So you always have to follow a conference's submission guidelines, and we're going to look at those. And those are always listed on their website. And every conference has like a committee, right? Almost like a peer review process that evaluates the relevance, the merit, which is a fancy way of saying how important, right? Each student's project or proposal is. So what I noticed for this conference is the proposals tend to be a little bit longer than some of the proposals I've seen. And it's because they've added this element of the abstract, right? They really want to know a lot of information about the research aspect. And that makes sense because it's a research conference, right? So it's really looking for students who are doing interesting research, innovative research, or finding gaps in research in a certain area, okay? So that's what the abstract proposal is. And before I move on, any other questions or maybe from some of our faculty that have experience with the abstract proposals did you want to elaborate maybe on my definition of abstract proposal? You don't have to, but in case I missed something there. Okay,
You covered it. Thank you, Erica.
cool. And we, again, always happy to return back to this idea of the abstract proposal. So one of the most important tips I always tell students, that the students that I've helped with different conferences, is definitely we need to read the proposal and abstract requirements carefully. And again, keep in mind as you're reading the requirements, they do seem pretty stringent, but it's because it's a research conference and what I call like not a hot take conference. If you know what a hot take is, a hot take just means like you're trying to be provocative and interesting and unique. And so you say something, but you don't follow it up with any like research, right? Any references. So this is why I particularly love this conference, because this is a conference that has the title research, right? So what's most interesting about your proposal is going to be the research element, right? What sources are you using, and what gaps have you filled in the literature, right? And I'll talk about this idea of gaps in the literature as we continue on, okay? So are we ready just to quickly look at some highlights in the submission requirements? Before I do that though, Alexa and Jocelyn, have you had a chance to do that? Because if you already had a chance to do that, then I can quickly do it. If you haven't, and this is your first time, let me know.
No, I haven't.
Okay. And one thing I noticed, as now we're looking at the abstract information, it's pretty dense. It's pretty dense. It's a little bit hard to kind of point out the most important parts. But like I said, one of my skills as a college student that really helped me was my ability to read things over and over and kind of pull out what the most important aspects of an assignment or proposal were. And I was able to translate those. So they give you an idea of what's an abstract, and I gave you an idea of what the abstract is. And you can see it's just central ideas of an argument or a project. Again, notice they don't say like essay, because this is a different beast than an essay, right? This is a presentation. They give you some requirements, but this is the most important part, right? This 25-word proposal description. And by the way, 25 words in addition to your title. So if you're like, oh my God, my title's like 30 words, right? It's not including the title, it's your title. And even if you have a long title, that's fine. And then a very short, it's pretty much a sentence in which you summarize your main point, right? Of what your abstract proposal is going to look like. And then 250 words, which is also, it's not a ton of space, right? To do a lot of the work. So you have to be pretty efficient here, right? In presenting your information. And then at the bottom, they give you some tips. So here they actually say 250 and 400 word abstracts. So if you just looked at the examples they give you where it said 250 word, if you don't read it carefully, you won't see that at the bottom, they do allow you some wiggle room. So 250 to 400 words. So if you're worried that that's too short, you can always go a little bit lower. So they do give you a lot of information about format. You definitely have to cite your sources. Again, remember, this is a research conference, right? Not just an idea conference. And if you haven't yet, again, make sure you just look over some of their tips about making sure everything's correct, accurate. They give you some great information about composing a title. So that's very important, is making sure your title is engaging, right? So if you already wrote an essay and you don't think your title is engaging, right, this is the opportunity to kind of reframe it to make it catchy. And they do have a lot of examples. So you can see at the bottom, they give you an example of less effective titles, behind the scenes at the zoo, and then a more effective title, behind the scenes at the zoo. And then they give you more information about the title. Okay, so it does seem like a lot of information, But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of distill it to just the most important aspects for you to kind of digest right now if you're still on the fence in terms of presenting, okay? So as I navigate back, any questions so far about the conference? Or any language I use?
Just a comment that I believe that the 400-word abstract, which is sort of slightly different thing, for awards purposes.
Oh, okay. So it's strictly 250?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Okay. That's a good point. Okay. So here, these are the most important points. And again, remember, I gave you the PDF for this. So if you want to remember these things, I gave you in the handout. So the proposal description, most important part, right? 25 words, but then the 250-word abstract proposal. Some of the most important things to start thinking about now, right? If you have an idea, right, is the first line should be a hook, if you haven't heard that word before. So it means like literally, how do you hook your readers in, right? What's interesting about this topic? You definitely have to have your thesis or your main idea in the proposal or the abstract proposal, right? And again, remember, you can work with your mentor. So if you have an essay or something you did and you like the thesis, but it's definitely something that can be improved upon, right? This is your moment to improve upon it, right? Because this is a totally different thing. It's a presentation, it's a poster. And giving context and essentially prove this is a unique idea, right? And worthy of research, because that's really what they're looking for. So I read this thing like 5 times in and out, and they are really looking for this idea that this is something that is worthy of research, right? That there's maybe some kind of gap in the literature, or meaning not a lot of scholars have looked at a lot of the research into this, right? So the research is just as important as this idea, as the unique idea, right? You share some key examples like quotes, statistics. It depends on the discipline, right? What these key examples would look like. And again, they use this word methodology a lot, right? If you have an interesting research methodology, share that. I know when I was in undergrad, that might have confused me a little bit, like this idea of methodology. So methodology is just a way of saying, how did you gather your research, right? And if you have a unique way that you gathered your research, maybe you did field work, right, in a community. Maybe you worked as a team and you had an interesting way of gathering your research. Maybe you looked at primary documents. That's what they're looking at. So how did you do your research, right? And again, if you have a unique way that you did that research, interviews, anything like that, that's the moment that you kind of shine in this proposal process. And then they do have this kind of unique thing where they want you to include the top 4 sources used in your research, right? So they already want to see the top 4 sources that you use, that you really relied on. And then they want like a catchy ending, right? Something to just end it. And then of course it's research, right? So you have to cite your sources, and they do allow MLA, Chicago, APA. That is options to cite your sources. So any questions about the way I've kind of broken down the most important parts? And there's a lot of other little sticky things they have. Like I think they have things about the formatting, but don't worry about that right now, right? This is just like the idea mode, right? This is the whole process. The whole point of today is more like getting you to sort of visualize what this might look like, right? So any questions before we break apart an example and we open it up to maybe the students more?
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's only 250 words scares me, because I feel like it's very limited. And I, write a lot, I speak a lot. So, it seems very limiting. And I know this is where my mentor would come into play, but do you recommend possibly like writing as much as possible and then just trimming it down to the most important parts?
So Jocelyn, you are a person of my own heart, because I also am an overwriter. Like wrote a chapter with someone and I was like 3,000 words over in everything, my proposal for it, the summary for it. So I generally work that way. I tend to overwrite first, right? Because those are all the things that are important to me. You're always going to probably overwrite because of course it's important to you, right, Jocelyn? It's your work. So, you know, and then edit back, obviously. And then that's where your mentor would really step in, right? And distill it to like its essence. So a couple things I always remind students is in writing the 250 word abstract, always keep in mind that yes, every single word is important to you, right? But it's no longer like your unique little baby, right? This is something now that needs to be communicated in a way so that people who don't know anything about the topic that you've spent so much time with can understand it and understand why it's important. So all those little things those little details that might seem important to you, right? They may just end up muddling the reader, right? And keep in mind these committees, they are going to be reading hundreds of these proposals. So I know when I've done anything, reading scholarship forms, reading papers, you always like the ones that make it easy to understand, right? And they have some notes on the website too, like about language. So one of the things they mention is think about your audience. Like, yes, this is scholarly, this is scholarship, but also keep in mind like your audience is other like community college students. So you want to make sure that if you're writing in history or you're writing in biology, that everyone can understand what makes your research important. Yeah, does that make sense, Jocelyn?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And I don't know, does any other faculty want to chime in on that too? It's hard. Abstract proposals are hard. Especially if you love what you do, right?
One thing that I've seen, because I require the abstract in my class for the research papers, and one thing that seems to be really, really helpful, that your introductory paragraph very often contains all of these elements, except that I only require, say, 2 to 3, having 2 to 3 sources referenced in the intro. In this particular case, they're asking for 4. Okay, but a lot of times, take a look at your intro. It has your thesis statement, it has your hook, it has the sources you're engaging with and why this is important. And maybe that's a starting point where you can finesse that if you're working with a paper, right? It's a starting point, I think. I don't know if anybody else maybe has some tips who are here as well. But think about it, you're going from coffee to espresso. I don't know if that's what we're doing.
That does make sense. It's like a sieve, right? Too. It's like it's just distilling the most important aspects. But I think what makes this so unique is, again, like they want to know a lot about your research process. That's what's very unique about this. I think Rayana, were you going to mention something?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it helps sometimes just to keep remembering, like when you go into a library database, when you're doing your own research and you get like 300 hits, you're looking at abstracts to quickly figure out which sources are going to be most useful. So think about what are the things that stand out to you when you're doing that process as a researcher. That's kind of a similar, you're highlighting in that same way. Like, what's the essential core information that I'm going to be sharing? That's what you're distilling it down to.
Yeah, and Rayana brings up a good point that the abstract is really, it has a very simple function in all aspects of scholarship, right? And the abstract, whether it's for scholarly journal articles or presentations, it's to make it easy to figure out what something is about, because nobody has time, right, to read all these articles, and nobody has time to look through all the presentations to decide which presentation is worthy to be in the conference, right? So it's just a practical way of distilling what your project is into this short little format. So I'm gonna keep going for the sake of time. So what I did, I'm going to show you, they do have examples on their website, and I'll end by showing those too. But one thing I did is I actually went online and I tried to find examples of like student proposal abstracts. Again, the conference has theirs and I'm going to share those, but I wanted to show you one, and then also kind of show you my commentary where I break apart the anatomy of it based on some of the comments I highlighted on it. So what you can see right now is what I did is I pasted it on a Google Doc so that I could make comments on it so you could see how I take it apart. So one thing that really interests me, because my students, my LS 101 students, honor students did that global, they did what we call a COIL through I think it's, Alan will remember, it's the Global Exchange Program here at ELAC. And so my students worked with students who were in a library science program in Colombia. And they were learning a lot about like social topics that were relevant to Colombia. And one of the things they really talked about a lot is like the protection of memory, the way the government steps in to protect collective memory, cultural heritage sites, the way cultural heritage is remembered through government sanctions. So these were all like new topics to a lot of my students. So I wanted to look around to see if there are any more abstract proposals based on students who are also interested in this idea of like memory or cultural heritage memory sites. And so I found an example of a student who did an abstract proposal, and it was titled Establishing a National Memory of Citizen Slaughter, a case study of the first memory site to mass murder in the United States history, Edmond, Oklahoma, 1986, 1989. So this was accepted at like a history conference. I thought it was interesting too, because I'm not from the field of history, so I always find the way they present. And so remember, they mentioned this idea of the hook, right? So if we look at this one, you can see, I think this is pretty interesting to me. This is a really thought-provoking hook. Since 1989, memory sites to events of mass murder have not only proliferated rapidly, they have become the normative expectation within American society. For the vast majority of American history, however, events commonly labeled as mass murder have resulted in no permanent memory sites. And the sites of perpetuation themselves have traditionally been either obliterated or rectified so that both the community and the nation could forget the tragedy. And I was thinking like, whoa, to me, that's a really interesting hook, right? They talk about this idea of like mass murder and the way we don't memorialize it, right? They also show the gap. Again, I go back to this idea of a gap in research, right? So why is it important? What's missing? What kind of information are they filling in, right? So we can see here, sorry, my computer is a little bit slow. It says, this all changed on May 29th, 1989, when the community of Edmond, Oklahoma officially dedicated the golden ribbon. This student didn't have to cite everything, but they do start including, right, historical moments or historical facts in their proposal, right? I said they also show there's a gap in research and understanding, and our understanding of how mass murder and memory are commemorated, right? We call this a gap in literature. And then here's that important part that they mention, key evidence. And this is a word they mention in the abstract proposal points. They want to see key evidence. So key evidence, again, just means like, why is this relevant, right? You have to say something in this proposal. Why is this relevant? What key piece of information will let the committee know that this is relevant, right? And again, he mentions that our first memorial for this specific mass murder wasn't until 1989, right? So he wants to talk about why that is, all right? And then, right, most important part, thesis. I don't know, different people have different ideas about saying in this oral presentation, you may want to talk to your mentor about that. But the student does make very clear what they're going to present, right? I share my research and investigation on the case of Edmond in order to understand why it became the first memory site of this kind in United States history. I argue that the small town of Edmond's unique political abnormalities on the day of the shooting, coupled with the near total community involvement, established ideal conditions for the emergence of this unique type of memory site, right? Very clear. One thing I also saw in the samples is they do like you to break up your proposal into like little paragraphs, even though at 250 words is not a lot, but I'll show you some from their examples if we have time. All right. Students highlight the use of historiography. And then the reason why I wanted to highlight this one and pull it apart for students is so that you can see this student is highlighting a unique form of methodology, right? Again, methodology is just a fancy way of saying like, what kind of research did you use? How did you gather your research? And historiography is a very specific methodology in history. It's looking at like primary documents, right? Synthesizing primary documents to create a narrative about history. So this student is saying, you know, I look at primary documents to create a narrative of this specific idea, right? So if this student was my student and presenting at the conference, I definitely asked the student to include, right, 4 citations of these primary documents. And they give you a clear flow, I think, as well, on how this presentation will look like. So they say, I do this historiography, and then I am going to illustrate through my research how the notable lack of communication between people, yada, yada, yada. So he's giving you an idea, the student is giving you an idea of how this presentation will continue. So probably need a better hook. And also they would need to include their sources, but I thought this was kind of an interesting activity for me to kind of look at the points that they wanted and then try to find an undergraduate example of research. So I think I'm going to stop there because it's 1:07 and I want to turn it over to students. And by the way, the PDF that I gave you has a link to this document as well. And I can throw it in the chat. It's actually a document you can edit because I had an idea of students could potentially workshop here, but I know for the sake of time, it's difficult. But there it is. So any questions from the students or our faculty? I know it's a lot of information. I just threw the document there. And I haven't been checking the chat. So if any questions came in the chat, feel free to shout them at me now.
Okay, so I do have questions.
Yes, she's like, I have questions.
First of all, I agree with you. This hook is very, very good. And it's something we've talked about in class where you use very strong words.
You got it.
So
right?
it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, I want to read about this. But then we've also talked about the importance of being very knowledgeable in the topic so that you can keep up with that very fiery hook.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question.
I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing, Alexa, so that you can see our faces and we can talk to you now.
Okay. Just because this is all very new. What would be the next step after this meeting?
That's a good question. What's the next step? Yeah.
The next step that, you know, and maybe Alan and Alan can talk to this if you want, is for you to approach your mentor if you haven't already done so.
Okay.
All right. Think about what you're working on. Perhaps you're interested in something you're writing right now. It doesn't have to be finished.
Mm-hmm.
You have
That's a good point.
Okay,
Oh,
but maybe
okay.
something also that you worked on in the past. Okay, if it turns out that it's work that you're really excited about that was in another class outside from honors, that's okay too. But let me know and let your mentor know to contact me because I can send them the clearance, the little sheet that they have to sign off on. Okay, I can forward that. So it's really about something that you are excited about. That's the next step. Determine what you want to work on. And then with your mentor, go ahead and make contact, run your abstract, by your mentor. And then once your mentor believes that it's ready to go, it'll be sent to me along with the sign-off sheet. I will forward everything to the HTCC in December. Make sense?
Yes. Okay, so then that was going to be my next question. Is there like a research topic? Can it just be anything that I am interested in?
It can be anything you're interested in because it's multidisciplinary. So they will figure out, where they're going to put you in what grouping. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yes.
And Alexa, I'm doing this plug because you were my student. So, an example, right, is so Alexa worked in a group with students from this university in Columbia. And so one of the things I told my honor students is like Alexa researched like cultural heritage.
Yeah.
Right. And it did have a slant towards the students in Colombia, though, because that's something kind of unique to Latin America is a lot of like political strife and trauma, and how cultural heritage and the protection of cultural heritage, vulnerable cultural heritage, is protected by the government. Right. And so like Alexa, you see in our class, we just did like an annotated bibliography on it. And then you did you had to create a visual presentation with these students. But now you have this interesting experience of working with international students. So Alexa, like your project is actually more, you could do something more interesting than you had time to even do in my class. So like if I mentored you, I would want to talk a lot about that exchange, right? Talk about the exchange that you had working on WhatsApp with these students as well. And the exchange, being an American college student and sharing your knowledge of what cultural heritage means in the United States with students in Colombia. You can make it much more interesting, and you can grow from something you did in a class. So if you wrote an essay in a class, but you already have grown from it, you can go back with your mentor and think about how you can turn that into something to present, right? And make even more engaging. That was my plug to you, Alexa.
All righty, thank you.
And that is kind of brilliant. I was actually just on a 9 a.m. meeting with another university in Brazil about another possible collaboration. I think this is in a lot of ways very unique to our campus, but it's amazing that even some of our honors courses are becoming involved in these COIL projects. It makes you competitive. It makes you unique. It makes your projects stand out. It's brilliant. It's sophisticated. It's global. So you have a lot to offer in terms of, your research. I'm so excited. I'm getting goosebumps. Okay, anything else that you wanted to share about the abstract or the 25-worder, Erica?
I had a little bit more, but because I see like Nadia showed up, Mingwei showed up. So I want to leave room for other faculty to share anything and for our students to continue asking more information. Because what I basically was gonna just talk about is if students wanted to talk more about, that 25-word beast. It seems simple, but I think it's difficult. But I mostly want to share the floor right now. And let me know, I know some new people came in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the PDF to my presentation one more time. So if you missed any part of it and you just wanted to see the slides, I uploaded it as a PDF.
Thank you for that, Erica. And I see that Evelyn Martinez showed up. Welcome, Evelyn. I know that For people who came in a little bit late, that's okay. We're recording this and we'll put it on the honors program site. That way it's accessible to students who and faculty who couldn't come, because Alan certainly gave some valuable information about what it means to mentor and what that process looks like. Okay. Nadia, did you have any questions or any comments? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, this was really interesting. And hi, Alan. My student didn't come to it, so I feel better prepared now when we finally get to talk. So thank you.
No worries. And you can always direct your student to this recording.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you for being here, though.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Evelyn, did you have any questions or any comments?
Hi, no, I was actually typing it, but I came in late. I was doing a training. But I still wanted to pop in and ask for the recording, but you just answered my question, like you have posted on the website. So I'll take a look at that. Because I am interested. I come from Dr. Bermudez. So I wanted to pop in, and see if it was still available.
Yeah, well,
But yes.
And Evelyn, one thing that I didn't mention is that we're going to do for the folks who are interested and also accepted to the conference, I'm planning on like a mock panel, in this format, either late February or early March. That way, you can feel comfortable presenting, we can give you feedback. And we want you to be as supported as possible. And of course, many of us will be at the conference as well. And we'll pop in to support you too, okay?
Thank you.
Evelyn, since you didn't get a chance in the beginning, we did ask the students who were here if they wanted to share or get any feedback about an idea. You don't necessarily have to, but while we're here, did you want to share just an inkling of what maybe you're interested in or what you researched in your class?
Yeah, I'm doing my research proposal on let me phrase this. So it's on the undocumented experience, undocumented students experience at a community college level, like what kind of resources they're receiving. So I am focusing it on ELAC and the Dream Resource Center at ELAC, like what like their data and stuff. So yeah, that's my research on undocumented students.
All right. So if you don't mind, can I jump in, Ruth?
Please do. Let me introduce Dean Minghui Lam. She's our dean overseeing the honors program, and she has come to share a few thoughts and words.
Yes, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I definitely wanted to come, and I apologize, I wasn't able to be here in the beginning of this workshop. I'm doing the faculty interview all day long. I have a lunch break now, so I asked Ruth to give me a few minutes before the closing. I mainly wanted to encourage you. Well, first, I want to congratulate the students. Obviously, the students, you're here because you're interested in research. And you're interested in research probably because you are interested in transferring to a 4-year institution and hoping maybe possibly going to grad school, like your professors. Dr. Blandon, as well as all the other faculty mentors, obviously they have gone to graduate school and finished their graduate training, and that's what they're here teaching you. And I'm hoping to inspire you to take the same pathway to transfer and then graduate from 4-year college. Then hopefully you would apply to graduate school as well to get further training, especially because you're doing this research. Want to share with you, I didn't have the opportunity to do research until my last year in college. I studied genetics, so my last year I was able to do some research in DNA research. And look at this, almost 40 years later, now we're talking about pretty much everything is DNA, mRNA, all the stuff. It was really a new science area, really new discovery back when 30 some, almost 40 years ago when I was in college. So I was able to be involved in that research. But you have a head start. Here you are, probably for second year in your college career. You are already thinking about doing research. So you really do have a head start. And our honors program is very unique. We're the only one in our district that requires Library 101 as an important component. And that's because I push it. My personal experience is I felt that I lacked that research, library research experience or training when I started doing research. And therefore, I really do believe that you as students would really benefit from it. So I was very grateful 4 years ago when I became the dean overseeing the honors program. Everybody, they were on board and they were willing to just kind of push Library 101 to start with. So I was very grateful. And now that you are here, you are thinking about doing research, I hope you will go through this. HTCC provides a great platform for you to get a head start. So having said that, I also wanted to mention another important resource to you, because I think a lot of people just missing out that opportunity. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of the past astronaut Ronald E. McNair. Have you anybody heard of McNair? So anyway, he was obviously he was a astronaut, and he passed away because I think it was a Challenger. You remember we had an accident, so the space exploration failed, and he obviously passed away. But because of what he had done, his achievement as a person of color, he was African American, and he became the first African American astronaut. So to celebrate his accomplishment, the TRIO program, I'm not going to take too much time to tell you about the TRIO program, but TRIO program started with serving students who are from low income, from whose parents never had a chance to go to college, meaning first generation, and then serving students with a disability. So it started with 3 programs: Student Support Services Program, Upper Bound, Educational Talent, such as, that's why it's called TRIO. But then later on, there are more TRIO programs got added, and Ronald E. McNair Scholars Program was one of them. So I'm going to forward you a flyer. I'm going to just send it.
Minghui, you muted yourself accidentally. Still muted.
I'm glad you told me. Okay, so I just sent you a link. If you can open that flyer, you can see tons of information. What I really want to share with you is when you are applying to transfer to another institution, I would encourage you to look up the institutions with Ronald E. McNair program, because the McNair program is just like what we're doing right now. You have faculty mentor to mentor you to this specific HTCC research. And the McNair program, after you transfer, they have the whole program to support you with various entities to help you to apply to grad school, prep to take GRE or even MCAT or any other kind of aptitude test so that you could do well, not just having a good GPA, but have outstanding test scores to get admitted to top-notch institutions to do your graduate studies. So later on, then you become a faculty somewhere, or you become a professional somewhere. So I definitely wanted to take the time to just introduce you. If you open the flyer, you'll be able to see more. And there are California, so many universities have McNair program. So do look when you are getting ready to apply for any institution. Do look up their program. If they have a program, I would highly recommend you consider those first. So I won't take too much of your time because in a few minutes, my next interview will start at 1:30. So thank you so much for joining this workshop. And I trust that you would all push through and have great presentation and great research outcome at HTCC. And I hope to join you at the research conference as well. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Minghui.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay, I guess we could wrap up. Erica, any other last words of wisdom?
My last words of wisdom is since I already closed my slides because you don't need them anymore, I am putting my email in the chat. And in addition to working with your mentors, if you would like help with your research, I'm happy to be a secondary a secondary mentor, even if you weren't in my library science class. If you would also just like tips for this, making the methodology part interesting, engaging, unique. I feel like as a librarian, that's kind of my strength. I can make any kind of methodology seem interesting. I think something I love. So I'm happy to be a secondary mentor, a personal librarian, if you will.
Okay, that is very generous. And I'm going to go ahead and put mine as well, although I think many of you have it in my emails and in my signatures. Please contact me also. I'm happy to be an additional set of eyes. If you are having problems getting a mentor, let me work that out with you in some way, because it should be in your discipline, but we'll figure it out. You shouldn't feel that you're out there alone, and you certainly are not. You have an entire team behind you, and I hope that you felt that. Do you all have any last questions for us? Alexa, Jocelyn, and Evelyn.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for making this experience, just making the setting and platform. I definitely feel very supported throughout this journey. So thank you so much for all the warmth and support.
Oh, that's very kind, Jocelyn. Thank you for that. Okay, anybody else? Any questions that we could answer last minute? No?
So I have a quick question. The actual deadline, it says conference application period, December 1. Does that mean December 1 it starts or it ends?
Okay, so that means that that's the internal deadline where the applications and the abstracts come to me.
Oh, okay.
Come to me and I will forward everything together.
Oh, okay. All right.
For example, and that gives me a little bit of wiggle room if something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong.
Right.
Right? Everybody always knows if you're going to take an exam, everything can be great, but everything is going to go wrong the day of the exam. You'll have no pen,
Right.
have no ink. That's life.
Right.
That said, we have a little bit of wiggle room in case something goes wrong. Maybe a file didn't come through the right way. Maybe something
Okay.
did. We'll figure it out. It gives us time to figure it out and make sure nothing, we can rectify it.
Great. Thanks. So we should have it to you by December 1st then. All right.
Along with the sign-off sheet, just to assure that these proposals were actually seen by the mentor.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, then I'm just going to go ahead and include my email as well. And please feel free to contact me if any questions come up. If you need an extra pair of eyes, I am here. And we'll figure it out. And thank you, Alexa, Jocelyn, and Evelyn for being here. And for those who could not be here but will see this, we encourage you to participate. You know, I think I know from experience, not that I think, I know there's so much talent at ELAC. But I also know that our students are very, very busy. But that said, we're willing to work with you. We want to work with you. We want that talent to be showcased at this conference. And we're happy to help any way we can. Okay. All right, Alan, any last words of wisdom? I see them written here.
I teach economics. I just put that, econ knowledge there. It's an investment, but the benefits exceed the cost in the long run.
Thank you for that, Alan. Thank you for your participation. All right, lastly, thank you, Erica Montenegro, so much as always. She's heard this times, I know, but it's true that I never got any library training, any research training until I was in grad school. It was very much taken for granted the entire way that we just had that training. And many of us did not. Many of us were working in computers in our workspaces because we didn't have home computers, but we got it done. And Eric, this is such a huge opportunity and such a valuable training. So thank you for being here, Erica, and Jocelyn, Alexa, Evelyn, everybody else. If you need any additional support with the research, let us know how we can help. We're always happy to help as well. Okay. All right. If no one has any additional questions, I'm going to go ahead and end, and I will post this as soon as humanly possible. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Happy researching.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Take care. Bye, everyone.